It is Tuesday, January the 31st. Just another night of opportunity in the NBA. We're having a good year, but we're coming off a bad week last week. So we look to get back to our winning ways here starting tonight. I'll be involved in 3 games. Why don't we get right to them? Let's start in Toronto, where the Raptors host the New Orleans Pelicans. Toronto a 7.5-point favorite at Betsafe, 215 the total in this game. Now the Raptors really struggling right now. They have lost 6 of 7. The Pelicans, meanwhile, coming off a 3-3 homestand that included wins over the Cleveland Cavaliers and San Antonio Spurs. However, the Pelicans have been much worse on the road this season than they have been at home. New Orleans just 6-15 away from home. Toronto, meanwhile, an excellent home team. And you know what? You look at the Raptors here. We mentioned they've lost 6 of 7, but let's look at that a little bit closer. Their last 4 games, they're coming off a 1-point loss to Orlando Magic. That was on Sunday. Prior to that, they beat the Milwaukee Bucks by 16. Before that, they lost by 2 at Memphis. Before that, they lost by just 2 to the San Antonio Spurs. So it actually seems like the Raptors are just about to bust out of this funk. And I think they have a good matchup here tonight. We mentioned the Pelicans, not a good road team. And when they lose, they usually lose big. 9 of New Orleans' last 11 losses have come by 8 points or more. We mentioned they're a 7.5-point dog here tonight. The reason they usually lose big is because they're not particularly good defensively. 22nd in the NBA in points allowed, surrendering nearly 107 points per game. The Raptors, meanwhile, an excellent offensive team. 5th in the NBA in points scored. They score nearly 110 per game. So look, I think they say good matchup for the Raptors here. They've won 10 of their last 13 meetings with the Pelicans. I think they win here tonight and cover the 7.5-point number. Moving on now to San Antonio, where the Spurs host the Oklahoma City Thunder. San Antonio, a 9-point favorite at Betsafe, 211 the total here. Now the Spurs coming off 2 straight losses, including a surprising home loss to the Dallas Mavericks. I'm sure they want to sort of wash that out of their system. Prior to that, they had won 6 of 7 games, so I wouldn't be too concerned about these Spurs. You look at the Thunder. Yes, they're led by Russell Westbrook, who should win the MVP award. It's an absolute joke that he's not going to be starting in the All-Star game, averaging a triple-double this season. But beyond Westbrook, the Thunder have some issues. Offensively, they're bottom half of the league in terms of assist, field goal percentage, next to last in terms of three-point shooting. Only the Chicago Bulls shoot the 3-ball worse than the Oklahoma City Thunder. And of course, they're not a particularly good defensive team either. And Enes Kanter now will miss the next few weeks. Not sure if you saw that in the Thunder's win over the Dallas Mavericks. Kanter punched a chair in a timeout, broke his forearm. Well, he's a major part of what the Thunder do, especially that second unit. He comes off the bench, and really when he's in the game, the Thunder sort of build their offense around him, around his low post scoring. So they will definitely be missing something without Enes Kanter. Going on the road to face San Antonio. This is the first time the Thunder and Spurs have met since last year's playoffs. Remember, the Thunder eliminated San Antonio in the Western Conference semis, won 2 games in San Antonio. You can rest assured the Spurs have not forgotten about that. Obviously, this Thunder team does not have Kevin Durant, so they're not as good as that team was last year. You look at San Antonio, so good on both sides of the ball. Second in the NBA in terms of field goal percentage. They shoot 47.9% from the floor. Also, second in the league in terms of points allowed, surrendering just 99.3 points per game. Their point differential of plus 8.1, second best in the NBA behind just Golden State. So look, I think the Spurs are going to be eager for a big win here after a bad home loss to Dallas in their last game, and after losing to Oklahoma City twice at home in last year's playoffs. The Thunder not as good as the Spurs this season. I think the Spurs win this one and win it big. I like them to cover the 9-point number. Final game I'm involved in on this Tuesday, January the 31st. Let's take it out west. The Portland Trailblazers hosting the Charlotte Hornets. Portland, a 3.5-point favorite at Betsafe, 214 the total here. Now the Blazers come in here hot. They've won 3 straight games. Well, they had won 3 straight games. They did lose their last game, but that was a 2-point decision to the Golden State Warriors, and they had an open 3-pointer at the end to actually win that game. The Hornets, meanwhile, have lost 4 straight games. So, look, at first glance here, you have a team that's lost 4 straight games, going on the road to face a team that's been playing well, and the home team only a 3.5-point favorite. But you know what? These little recent streaks, how these teams have been playing over the past 7-8 days, that's not everything. And big picture, the Charlotte Hornets are just a better team than the Portland Trail Blazers. The Blazers do not play any defense. They're 27th in the NBA in points allowed. They surrender over 110 per game, 26th in defensive efficiency. The Hornets, meanwhile, an excellent defensive team, 8th in points allowed, 5th in opponents' field goal percentage, and the Hornets a very balanced offensive team that is going to be able to attack the Blazers. And we saw, look, 2 weeks ago, these teams met in Charlotte. It was not close. Hornets won that game 107-85, smothered the Blazers, held them to just 35% shooting. Charlotte themselves shot 47%, 5 players in double figures. Look, I know this game's in Portland. I know the Hornets have lost some games recently. Do want to mention, though, their last 2 losses have come by 3 points or less. So they've certainly been knocking on the door. Again, I just think they're better than the Portland Trail Blazers. So I'm going to take the better team here as an underdog. I'll take those 3.5 points. I like Charlotte plus 3.5 on the road in Portland tonight. There you have it, folks. Those are my thoughts for this Tuesday, January the 31st. I like Toronto at home, minus 7.5 against the New Orleans Pelicans. I like the Spurs as a 9-point home favorite over Oklahoma City. And I like the Charlotte Hornets plus 3.5 on the road in Portland. Folks, I wish you best of luck no matter what you decide to do tonight, just so long as your interests don't conflict with my interests. For Betsafe, I'm John Arnett. Enjoy the games.